Good morning, everybody. Those at the back will no doubt know what I'm about to say. Today's proceedings are going to be broadcast on the live link, but only after a 10-minute delay. Those with recording devices, mobile telephones, may use them to... Those with recording devices, can you hear me? Still can't? Oh. Can you hear me now? Good. Then I'll start again. Today's proceedings are being broadcast on the live link with a 10-minute delay, as usual. Those with mobile telephones may use them to transmit what they hear in the hearing room, but only after 10 minutes have elapsed since the event that they're reporting. They may not be used for recording or photography. It is possible, but unlikely, that there will be a private session today. That is more likely to occur, I think, in the next 2 days. Mr. Barr.
Thank you, sir. Yesterday, we dealt with the start of your sexual relationship with Monica. I would like to ask you now about how that continued. Is it right that you soon arranged drinks at a pub in Brixton with another activist couple?
Don't remember that at all.
Did you socialise with Monica and other activists?
We were all part of the same social group.
And did you feel that being with Monica in a relationship assisted to bolster your cover?
I didn't really think about that.
Not at all?
I don't know if I thought about it at all. I don't remember thinking about it particularly.
What were you thinking about when you were mixing as a couple with other activists?
I couldn't say.
Nothing at all?
Well, if you give me a specific example, what was I thinking about on that particular day?
What I'm interested in exploring is what you were thinking the impact of going out with Monica was having on your deployment.
I didn't really think about it, that I can remember.
Do you mean by that you were living the existential experience to the full?
No, not really.
What were you thinking about in terms of the relationship itself?
It was quite an arm's length relationship, I think, and quite short.
Did you give any thought to whether or not it should continue?
No, I think I just let it run its course.
think at any time during the relationship that what you were doing was wrong?
I don't remember.
Is it your evidence that you didn't tell your managers about it?
Yeah, I didn't tell my managers about it.
Was that because you knew it was wrong?
No, it was because I knew they wouldn't want to. They wouldn't want me to bring it to their attention.
Because it was wrong, and then they'd have to deal with it or cover it
Well,
up.
the management could know about something without me actually bringing it to their attention. If I brought it to their attention formally and putting them in a position where they would then have to take a position, and I was aware that that wasn't something that would be applauded.
And that's because the right answer in taking a position is it was wrong, wasn't it?
Do you mean morally wrong or in contravention of the guidelines I'd been given?
Is your view that it was wrong in any way?
Yes.
In what ways?
Well, because she's clearly... I'm not going to question anything that Monica's saying in her account now, and I think she's saying that it caused her distress. I would not have wished to cause her any distress.
It was morally wrong because you were deceiving her as to who you really were.
Well, I'm deceiving everybody as to who I really am.
That's not an answer to the question.
I think it is.
The difference is you're in a sexual relationship with her. You go into it's morally wrong to deceive someone into a sexual relationship when you are not who you say you are.
Well, I didn't deceive anybody into a sexual relationship. To begin with, I've made no representation in order to be in a sexual relationship with anyone. And the relationship was initiated by her, not by me. So you keep implying, which it was according to her own account, you keep implying that I'm somehow trying to solicit a sexual relationship. That just isn't the case. And you can put the question as many times as you want. It's still not the case.
So is it your view that you didn't think you had any obligation when you were pretending to be Jim Sutton, whatever you did, to behave as if you were a police officer?
Well, I don't think I would have been able to behave as if I was a police officer when I was being Jim Sutton.
Morally wrong to enter a sexual relationship with an RTS activist holding the beliefs that she did when you were actually a police officer?
Well, I've already said that if she's caused pain by it, then of course it's wrong.
In contravention of the police code of discipline, because it is obviously something that is going to bring the police into disrepute.
Well, that's an issue for others to decide, isn't it?
Well, it's already been decided, hasn't it?
Well, in my absence, yeah.
So the bottom line is you didn't look at this at the time through any sort of moral or professional prism.
I think I looked at the whole situation I was in through those eyes at different times, but nobody ever thinks they're the bad guy, do they? So I didn't either. And I thought I was working for the police doing the job I was asked to do in the manner in which I'd been asked to do it. So I didn't think I was the bad guy either, but I obviously may have been wrong about that.
Do you now accept that you were wrong about that?
Well, I feel like I'm here as a defendant rather than a witness is the way it feels to me, so clearly yes.
Is it right that after the conversation in which Monica broke up with you, you called her and told her you missed her, and during the course of that conversation you cried?
I don't remember that at all, but it might have happened. I don't remember that at all.
And did there come an occasion after the end of your deployment when you had sex with her one last time?
No, absolutely not.
Her evidence was there was one such occasion when you had sex at your request.
After my deployment?
No, after the relationship broke up.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
During the course of the relationship, you continued to report on Monica, didn't you?
Some material might have gone in.
You can take it from me, we've got several reports.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you give any thought to the propriety of reporting on someone with whom you are having a sexual relationship?
Yes.
And what was your thinking?
That I took care in what I reported.
In what sense?
Well, I'm curious to see what reporting's gone in, but I remember being careful not to put in reporting that was likely to have negative consequences for her. But then I suspect you're going to show me something to the contrary, so...
I'm more interested in the professional conduct aspect of this, to be blunt with you. Looking at it through a policing prism, if you are making decisions not to report intelligence on somebody because you are in a sexual relationship with them, it's problematic, isn't it?
Potentially, but everybody that I know who was in this sort of deployment, you do start to try to edit some of what your reporting is in order to influence the outcome to what you think the outcome should be. You've already shown a series of reports yesterday that show me doing that in terms of policing plans, and it's the same with reporting about individuals. You try to be, this is going to not go down well in this room, but you try to be fair.
I mean, following the trail of broadening the theme out, you're exercising a discretion as to what to report and what not to report.
Yes.
Can you help us with, you've told us, trying to be fair, you've told us essentially you didn't report things about Monica because you were in a sexual relationship with her. What other factors were in play in exercising the discretion as to what to report and what not? told me that you didn't tell your managers about the relationship while it was progressing. Did you tell them about it at any other time?
No.
You alluded to the fact that they might nevertheless have known.
Yes.
Did they ever mention it to you?
No.
Did they ever ask you?
No.
What makes you think they might nevertheless have known?
Well, I think it was clear that they were aware that some officers, both male and female, were in lifestyle fields and in relationships.
You gave evidence yesterday that Sergeant Greeny saw some surveillance photographs.
Yeah.
Do you have any reason to believe that any of your other managers saw those photographs?
I was trying to think of an example for you of when things like that would have come up and you would have expected to be asked. I don't know who else would have seen surveillance photos. I was just thinking of that as an example of, I remember looking at the photos and thinking, well, we're obviously in a relationship, and I wasn't asked about it. And when I gave the photographs back, I remember they looked through them, and the photograph of me with her, I hadn't identified her in the photograph, because that seemed like bad manners. I guess they knew who she was anyway, but I didn't identify her in the photograph. But nobody said, well, who's this person standing next to you here? And nor did I say, do you know who this is, and why aren't you asking me about it? I think a lot of the technique of managing undercover officers is like when you're managing a source, and probably like being a legal brief, that half the skill is knowing what questions you really don't want to ask, I think. So I think their policy was, don't ask questions if you don't particularly want to be told officially what the answer is.
I don't want you to say anything that might reveal a source, but there were all sorts of ways of gathering intelligence about RTS, weren't there? Mm-hmm. To your knowledge, did your managers come to know about your relationship with Monica through any other source?
And not that I'm aware of.
Could you give me a yes or no answer to the next question? Did you tell any of your fellow UCOs about your sexual relationship with Monica?
Yes.
Being very careful. If it's an officer you know we're able to refer to, you can say so, but if not, could you write down which officer or officers?
I think I wasn't making a secret of it, so I didn't sort of sit down with one person and just say, are you aware of this and what do you think? When things were discussed amongst officers in the field, most of the discussion would be around tactics and deployment and which direction you should be going in. But you became aware that it was just obvious that some people were in a relationship or there was some issue on that side, but you very rarely said, oh, can you clarify for me, are you definitely sleeping with this person? And nobody asked me that question.
So can you give me a sense of the way in which you did communicate to your colleagues?
No, not really. Not really.
Well, you answered my question, yes. Again, we've been careful about anonymity. What was the basis for answering that question, yes?
I think I did mention it specifically to my field mentor.
HN1.
I don't think I've got HN1 on my system here, I'm afraid.
We'll write that down for you.
I can do it if you can't.
Doesn't appear to be on this list. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. Can you help us with when you told HN1?
Not really. I discussed quite a few things with HN1 because he was my designated field mentor. So he was the person I was told to go to for advice on anything that I didn't wish to discuss with the office or the office wouldn't have wished to discuss with me.
And what advice did you seek from HN1?
I sought all manner of advice from HN1.
In relation to Monica?
I'm not sure that I specifically sought his advice on it. I think I just talked about it in the general sense of where I was with my deployment and what I was doing. I wouldn't have hidden the fact that I was in a relationship from him.
Again, being careful of anonymity, how would other officers have known?
I can't say in the same way that I don't. I mean, I know Pete Francis has said that he thought he knew, but I don't know how that would have been the case. Perhaps just a generalised discussion about something else where it became apparent. It wasn't something that I would have sought to disguise or hide from my colleagues.
Yes, you've said that.
Yeah.
And what I'm trying to understand is, in what ways would it have come out because you weren't trying to hide it?
I can't think of an example, I'm afraid.
And in terms of who would have known because you weren't hiding it, is that all of your colleagues at the time or only some of them?
No, only some.
Those from the same field, those who were your close friends?
Much more likely to be people in the same field.
And does that mean both environmental groups and animal rights?
Probably. But that doesn't mean that everybody who was working in the same field as me would necessarily have been aware of it. And I didn't go back and ask them who was.
And did you get any reaction, first of all, from HN1?
Not that I remember.
From any of your colleagues?
Not that I remember.
Can I take it from those answers that the existence of sexual relationships within the SDS was regarded as entirely normal?
I did a while ago go back and try to think of who else was on the section with me and how many people I thought were in relationships, and I would confidently say I think it's probably about half. But it's the same fields all the time. Some fields are very incestuous, that activists in those fields do not go out with people who are not other activists in those fields. Animal rights activists don't go out with people who aren't animal rights activists. The groups they didn't. The groups tend to be very enclosed, whereas on the right wing, for instance, it's quite easy to be a single bloke because there's a lot of them on the right wing.
Can we just explore that a little bit? RTS was a pretty broad church, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And the major forum for discussion was the weekly meeting.
For most of this time, there were 2 weekly meetings. There was the closed group and the big public one.
Let's talk about the public one.
Okay.
So some significant numbers of people you've described.
About 60 or 70 usually.
Tens of people turn out to these meetings.
Yeah, about 60, but not necessarily the same ones each time.
It would be an absurdity to suggest that was a closed circle of people from the point of view of sexual relationships, wouldn't it?
Yep.
So is your observation confined to the closed group or not?
My observation is just that activists, in my experience, were generally going out with other activists, and it was unusual for someone who was an activist to have a partner who had no involvement and wasn't known to the other activists.
Unusual but not unknown?
Probably not unknown. Amongst the most... At one of the debriefs, it might even have been the one after the M25 event that you asked me about yesterday, I remember looking around the room of people discussing it and thinking, these people have all been in relationships with each other, or they live in the same squat as each other, and I think was still a single person living alone, and I thought, how obvious can this be? It's obviously me. Those sort of factors can be quite bald.
But there were other single people in RTS, weren't there?
Yeah.
And that investigation did not cast any suspicion on you, did it?
I don't know. That the meeting I was at, I was okay, but I know there was a subsequent discussion that I wasn't at that I found out about later, in which it was being pointed out that I'd sort of risen up through the group very quickly in a short time, and that people didn't know that much about my background.
But any suspicion they had was dispelled, wasn't it? Because
Well, I don't know.
Well, you've continued to be in the core
Well,
organising
that
group
doesn't
for
necessarily mean
years.
the suspicion was dispelled. It just meant it wasn't strong enough to be acted upon at that point.
Can we move now back to protests and the Shell Oil Annual General Meeting of the 14th of May 1997? We've got a report about the protest at the Shell Oil Annual General Meeting. We don't have any reporting in advance of that meeting. Can you recall whether or not you did pass on any intelligence before that meeting?
Can you tell me where it was?
Yeah, let's call up the report. C116447-448. Go over the page, please. Queen Elizabeth II Conference Centre, 14th of May 1997.
Okay.
So the question is, can you recall whether or not you reported any intelligence on this event in advance?
I'm obviously there. I'm afraid I don't even remember this event. There were a lot of these sort of events. I don't actually remember being at this event, but I obviously was.
Maybe in the light of that answer you can't help me, but the next question I wanted to ask you was, do you know whether Shell was warned in advance that there was going to be disruption at their AGM?
I don't know, but it wasn't usually the practice of SDS to pass intelligence to private companies.
You say the SDS. Do you say that because the intelligence wasn't being passed in any form, however sanitised, to private companies, or because it was, but not via the SDS?
I don't think, to my knowledge, that special branch reporting would have found its way to private companies unless there was a very strong reason for it doing so. Even
in heavily sanitised form?
Yeah. I think private companies, I remember they used to have their own intelligence system, and they used to get their own intelligence reporting that was often extremely inaccurate, that would come out to us sometimes for comment, if that helps. So the intelligence, there was a flow the other way. They would give us their reporting and ask us if it was accurate, if they were anticipating something at a meeting, for instance. But that's not quite the same as us tipping them off in advance.
So the picture I'm getting is you will be asked at a weekly meeting, this company thinks this is going to happen, is it right?
Yeah.
Can you help us with how often that would happen?
Not very often. There was a private security company, I think, that used to sell reports about this sort of activist event to companies like Shell, and they used to pay quite a lot for the reports. And then Shell would then take the reports to us and say, is this true? So sometimes it would come back the other way, almost like marking the homework and say, well, this bit's true and this isn't, and this.
You've referred there to Shell. Can you recall which other companies were submitting submitting information?
No, I think Shell's the only one I can remember that I saw. It didn't happen very often. Maybe 3 or 4 times in 5 years, I think.
And when you commented on the accuracy or otherwise of the intelligence, do you know what happened next?
No, I just feed it back into the system.
And are you sure it was only Shell?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not sure it was only Shell.
And when you say 4 or 5 times in 5 years, was that in reference to Shell or to private companies in total?
No, total. I think there was some other stuff relating to... it happened similarly with companies in the City of London coming up to Millennium Evening. There was a lot of reporting that there was going to be all sorts of activist activity in central London, in the city during that time, and the big city companies were very concerned about it and were paying quite a lot of money to security companies for reporting about it. And some of that was then coming back to us to be asked, is this really going to happen? To which the answer was almost always no.
Can you recall which big city companies?
No.
Was McDonald's ever using this facility?
No.
Are you sure about that?
Not to me.
Can we take that down now, please? Could we have up from tab C119 MPS 40417? This is a report about the RTS Bristol Street party on the 21st of June 1997. This is, if we look at paragraph 1, refers to a raid on a squat. I'll give you a moment to read it, but then I'm going to ask you whether you provided any intelligence to trigger that raid.
Okay, I've read it. I was at the Bristol event. I would have reported on it if it was of interest, and obviously that's what this is. Did I put reporting in advance that caused the squat to be closed down? I have no idea.
Did you participate in the event itself?
Yes.
How long were you out on the street participating in that event?
Most of the day until the evening, I think.
To what extent were you with Monica during the day?
I don't remember being with Monica specifically at that event. I was part of a group of people.
And if we zoom out now, can we have the second 2 paragraphs? Let you read those.
Okay.
Then the bottom of the page and over the page, please.
Yep.
So can you help us? Were you an eyewitness to the trouble starting?
Yes, I think I was.
Can you help us with how the trouble started?
No.
Well,
it says here, so I have no doubt that that's accurate. The trouble started at 7:30 when police attempted to clear the remaining partygoers from the road. That would usually be the trigger point at Reclaim the Streets events. That it would get to the stage where the crowd had thinned to the point where police felt that they could clear them off the streets. And when they then tried to do that, that would usually then be the prompt for it all to kick off.
Can you describe what you witnessed?
No, no.
Can you give us any impression at all?
My impression of that day is the usual sort of running through the streets. I don't remember anything specific about... there's more detail in this written report than I remember of this. There were lots of these events. They happened frequently. This isn't a particularly unusual RTS event. There were a whole succession of them.
Did you witness the officer being pulled from his horse?
Obviously, because it says that here.
Well, forgive me, but you could be reporting that either because you saw it or somebody told you about it.
I've seen policemen pulled off their horses at RTS events. Was one of them Bristol? I mean, if you ask me enough times, I'll think I remember which one it was. I've certainly seen that in London. It's not unusual for mounted policemen that get caught in the crowd to be pulled off their horses.
Were you present when McDonald's was smashed up?
No.
In the early hours?
No, I wasn't.
So what would the source of that intelligence be?
Because they discussed going, and then they discussed it again when they got back to the flat, and I was in the flat.
Thank you. Could we take that down now, please? Could we have up C126, MPS 40534? This is a report with intelligence dated the 6th of September 97 about the Copex Arms Fair. If we could have the text expanded, please.
Okay.
How did you get this intelligence?
Presumably from friends who were involved in the campaign.
And what did you understand the significance of the campaign against the arms trade to be to the SDS?
It was one of a raft of groups where if you put in general intelligence about it, if it was of interest, it would go through the system.
And what was your understanding of why this was put through the system?
Well, I didn't have an understanding of why this one would be put through the system, because that would have been a business for the handlers and the controller.
Did you have any understanding as to whether or not CAT was of interest to Special Branch in the SDS?
It wasn't a specifically targeted group that I recall, but a lot of these groups, the membership moves between a whole series of the same groups, some of which are of more interest than others. I would basically feed in anything that I'd picked up that I thought might be useful. And the old cliche is that an undercover police officer is just an open mic, and anything that was potentially interesting, you'd pass back. If the office thought it was worth passing on, they'd pass on, and sometimes then they'd invite feedback to see whether there was any interest in whatever the content of the report was.
But presumably there is some sort of filter going on here, because there must be lots of everyday matters that you aren't reporting.
Yeah.
And was it your understanding then that CAT was the sort of organisation that was likely to be of interest?
I would pass on anything I got about CAT, because they're a direct action group, and that has public order implications. I don't think I picked up a great deal about CAT. I wasn't involved in them.
Protests against genetically modified crops. Did you participate in an action in Essex in which crops were destroyed?
I might have done.
What's your recollection?
I've certainly participated in those actions. I can't remember where it was.
In this country?
Yes, both in this country and abroad.
Can you help us with your recollection of the actions that you were involved in this country?
I was involved in an action organised by the activist whose name I gave you earlier in relation to genetically modified demonstrations. I was part of a large group who did a crop destruction somewhere. We drove down there. I think we destroyed the crop and drove back again. It was a large group of people, and that activist was the organiser. And
presumably your managers were well aware that you were doing that. Is that right?
Yeah.
And what was your understanding of the SDS and police interest in that action?
Probably similar to CAT, that it was mixed. I would report it to them. If they were interested in it particularly, then they might come back and ask me about it. the activists aren't going to want to hear it, but there was quite a degree of sympathy towards that campaign from the DS who was my handler and from myself as well, so we didn't really regard it as a priority for us.
Can you help us with the extent to which you participated in preparations for that crop destruction?
For the one in, if the one in Essex is the one that I've got a bit of a recollection of, then I don't think I was involved in organising it, but I remember having a row with the organiser beforehand because aspects of it hadn't been thought through very well.
And can you help us in general terms with what points you were raising with the organiser?
I think it hadn't been recce'd properly, so we were going in as a large group to an unknown. She's a very good organiser, and this wasn't very well put together, if that's the one I'm thinking of. So I gave my opinion on that.
And so the practical effect of that is you were providing constructive comments for the more effective conduct of this action?
I'm afraid so, yeah.
Can you help us with the overseas action? What I'm interested in is what happened in this jurisdiction and not abroad.
Okay.
Is it right that some of the preparation for that action happened in this country?
No, I don't think so. Not by me. I think I was invited to get involved in that by the same activist that we're discussing. It was a small group of, I think, about 6 people. I think we pretty much got the vehicles and the equipment to do the action once we got to the other country.
But there must have been some form of planning on this side, in this jurisdiction, before to arrive at the decision you should travel abroad.
By her, I guess, yeah.
Were you involved at all in providing any opinion or advice within this jurisdiction?
I would always have given my opinion if I was asked for it.
You are described by core participants in their witness statement as being not just a participant but an enthusiastic organiser. Is that a fair characterisation of your contribution to this action abroad?
Yes.
And how much of that enthusiastic organisation occurred within this jurisdiction?
Well, nothing, because I don't recall getting together any aspect of it until we got... You don't want me to say the other country, I take it? No, okay. I don't recall getting involved in the actual organisation of it until we were there and we needed to pick up tools and vehicles and such like.
Final question on genetically modified crops, if it helps. Throws Farm, Essex, going back to the action.
Is this the same one? Okay.
Does that ring a bell?
No, but I'm just saying, is that the same one you asked me about before?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Is that... I was asking you whether that rang any bells.
No more so, no.
Can we move now to the Reformation of London Greenpeace, C137 MPS 40634? This is a report dated, this information obtained the 30th of October, written up on the 31st of October 1997, attributed to you about London Greenpeace. Mm-hmm. Could we have the text and the source comment expanded, please?
I've read it.
Thank you. What was the source of this intelligence?
It looks like... I assume I'm able to name people that are named in the report, am I?
You can name people named in the report.
It looks to me like Paul Gravett has come to the RTS meeting and said this in calling for support for London Greenpeace. So I've pretty much reported what he said to the RTS meeting, it looks like to me.
What did you know about London Greenpeace before this?
I knew what it was. I knew it's no connection to the Greenpeace, the big environmental group, that it's an totally independent group, that Helen Steele and Dave Morris were sort of leading lights of it, that it was quite a small group. Just general background like that, really.
And in terms of the SDS's involvement,
I was aware there'd been SDS involvement in it.
To what extent?
I think somebody had commented at one stage that that Helen Steele had probably met more SDS field officers than anybody else.
The source comment says the group will eventually house most of the members from last time round, though presumably without the private detectives. As a source comment, has that come from you?
Quite possibly. Again, it's the sort of light joke you put in a report without realising that 30 years later a joke's going to fall very flat in front of a lot of other people.
Well, taking this as a light joke, presumably without the private detectives, what did you know about the role of private detectives in London Greenpeace in the past?
Principally what I'd heard through London Greenpeace, which was that at some of their meetings, the meetings were extraordinarily small, and there were rival agencies, private detectives agencies, being tasked against them. So there was the absurdity of a small group meeting at which a sizable proportion of the people present were working for private concerns.
You said principally. What did you learn from the SDS side? About private detectives infiltrating Greenpeace?
I don't think I learned anything. This was all public domain at the time. It was the McLibel trial, I think, was around this time, and it was all in the newspapers all the time.
And
Private Eye followed it very closely as well.
Why would this have been funny to your colleagues?
I think because the idea of an activist meeting with a very small number of activists and a very high number of private detectives we would have thought was inherently amusing.
Could we take that down now, please? Could we have up C145 730 833? December 1997. Could we have the text expanded? I'll give you a moment to read it.
Okay.
What did you know about Joe Tex?
I don't think this is my report. Is this definitely my report? I don't think this is my report.
You don't think it's yours. Did you ever meet Joe Tex?
No. Well, not knowingly.
What I'm interested in is the inquiry understands that Joe Tex is the man with whom at some point HN26 forms an intimate relationship.
Okay.
Are you able to help us with whether you knew that HN26 had formed a sexual relationship with someone that she'd met undercover?
No.
At any point?
No. Well, years later.
In the course of the inquiry's proceedings or before that?
When did this inquiry start?
2015.
Possibly in the course of. I was aware that they were in a relationship since she had finished in the field.
When did you become aware of that?
I'm not sure.
Did you ever meet HN26 whilst she was deployed?
Not while she was... we in the office, when we'd come together occasionally, yeah. Yeah.
But in the field?
No. I think I may have ran past her once.
Can we take that down now, please? I want to move next to your sexual relationship with Ruth.
Mm-hmm.
Is it right that she was, by the time the relationship started, a long-standing and trusted RTS activist?
Yes.
Who'd been on the M11 protests?
Probably.
would it be fair to describe her as a more deeply rooted activist within RTS than you were?
Yes, it would. She'd been involved since she was a child.
How well did you know her before the relationship became sexual?
Very well, I think, because in the separate meeting group that we've already described, the closed meeting group that I was invited into, there were no more than 16 or so, 16, 17 people in it. She used to chair the meetings, and this was the case every week for quite a long period of time. I already knew her before that, and then some of us would sometimes go for a drink after those meetings as well. So over a period of time, I got to know her very well.
Did you both flirt with one another on a hunt in the autumn of 1997?
I wasn't aware that she had ever been on a hunt.
Her evidence is she went on one, and
Then I'm sure her evidence would be accurate.
Did the sexual relationship begin in November 1997?
I'm not sure of the date. That sounds like about the right time.
As a result of an advance made by her?
Yes.
Why did you accept the advance?
I know you don't like this answer, but I liked her a lot. I liked spending time with her. She obviously felt the same way.
Was her standing within RTS a factor?
No, it wasn't, but I was conscious of the fact later that she was so widely respected that it didn't do me any harm, but that was in no way a reason for the relationship developing.
Was your decision to accept the advance fettered in any way by the fact you were a police officer?
No, it wasn't, no.
Did you give that fact any thought whatsoever before accepting the advance?
No.
You should have done, shouldn't you?
Yes, I probably should have.
There's no probably about it, is there?
But by this point, I've been living under that identity all the time for, 3 years or whatever. I know it's very difficult for people who haven't done this sort of work to understand. You invest a lot of yourself in it. It becomes more real to you than any other version of yourself. I think people think that you're constantly going around being aware of the fact that you're an undercover police officer. You don't. You lose yourself in that side of yourself. You don't think in that way, and I know that people don't understand that. If you did understand that, then a lot of these stories make a lot more sense.
But there's a difference between whether it's right and wrong and why you did it, isn't there?
Well, yeah.
Did at any point you, for example, say to your managers, I am the subject of a sexual advance, I fear I'm not going to be able to resist it?
No.
And why didn't you do that?
For the reason I've given before, that they wouldn't have wished me to make them aware of that.
Well, you said before they wouldn't have wished you to make them aware of a sexual relationship, but going to them, explaining the factual situation from a position of it being wrong to have a sexual relationship and asking for help to avoid it is a different thing, isn't it?
Yes.
Why didn't you do that?
This sort of work is fraught with moral conundrums. If you are constantly going to your handler saying, yeah, I have moral qualms about this aspect of the job, well, if you would, that would not be well received. In fact, they would have regarded it as absurd, I think.
Absurd?
I think so.
Had you any evidence to support that view? In other words, did you know of anyone else ever raising that issue?
Raising the issue of they thought they were
subject to sexual advances and wanted help avoiding the problem?
I think that might have... HN 104, I think, may have raised that issue in advance with the office. I think he said something to me about it afterwards, that he had said to the office that he had this issue. And I think their response to him was, use your initiative.
Was that conversation one you had before you
no,
entered?
it was subsequently.
So at the time that you were deciding whether or not to accept Ruth's sexual advance, it'd be fair to say you had no objective basis for thinking that raising a concern about that would be dismissed by your managers.
I would have been 100% certain that if I'd raised that, they would not have been happy about it.
That's different from them not doing anything about it.
Well, the track record of when it had been raised or become apparent was that it was sympathetically dealt with and usually very quietly dealt with.
How an issue was dealt with afterwards does not mean to say that it shouldn't have happened in the first place, does it?
No.
So coming back, having explored it, why didn't you do anything to avoid this second sexual relationship?
How do you mean do something to avoid it?
Declined the advance, for example, made an excuse, spoken to your managers and to seek help, any of those things?
I think speaking to your managers in advance about something like that would have been an absurdity, and that they would not have been helpful. I think there was a term had been used which might help you where they talked about UCs being either high maintenance or low maintenance. And low maintenance was very definitely the thing to do. Low maintenance people did not bring problems to the office. High maintenance officers would be those who'd be constantly asking the office, what should I do about this, what should I do about that? That was not considered a good thing to be.
But this is a big deal, isn't it?
And you'll see also in some of the papers you've got there that there's frequent reference to me resolving problems relating to fieldcraft in annual reports and such like. And I think that's the sort of thing that means. It means not bringing those things to the office.
But entering into a sexual relationship with somebody is a big deal, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Did you, on this occasion with Ruth, give any thought to the fact that you were deceiving her actively as to your real identity?
No.
Did you give any thought to the fact that you were depriving her of the opportunity to make an informed decision as to whether to consent to sex?
No.
You should have done, shouldn't you?
Well, given that I'm sat here, that would have been a better idea, but I don't see how that could have come about.
Could have come about by giving consideration to her as a woman and a human being, couldn't it?
I think I gave great consideration to her in that way.
How can you say that when you deprived her of informed consent?
I don't think I have.
If it were said that your answers display a complete disregard for her as a woman, what would you say?
I have the highest regard for her. The last thing I would have wanted would have to have been disrespectful to her. The last thing I would have wanted to do would have been to have been disrespectful to her.
But that is precisely what you were by depriving her of informed consent, isn't it?
To an extent, but I think that was a product of the circumstances.
Did you give any thought to Monica when entering into another sexual relationship so soon after your relationship with her had ended?
No, because her circumstances had changed.
Did you give any consideration to the impact it might have on her?
Well, no, she had, by her own statement, ended the relationship and moved on, so I didn't think that this impacted her.
Did it occur to you that someone might finish a relationship but still have feelings for the other person?
Yes, but if they've already moved on to another relationship themselves, then I think it's ended.
Did you see Ruth about 3 or 4 times a week, including meetings and socialising?
No, we didn't meet that often. This was commented on by other people. We didn't. Sometimes we'd meet up a few times quite close together, and then we could go quite a long period without meeting, to the extent that some people in the activist circle weren't even aware we were a couple for quite a long time, by which I mean over a year. And sometimes we could go a couple of weeks without meeting, and then we might meet accidentally at a meeting and then be together for a few days.
Did you cook a lot together?
Well, yeah, we certainly cooked together, yeah.
Went to pubs together?
Yeah.
Went to the cinema together?
Yes.
Ruth's evidence is it became emotionally quite intense for her. Is that fair?
It is, but I wasn't aware of that until quite a long way in. Because we weren't spending a lot of time together, I thought, well, this works well for both of us. And we never discussed the relationship, and she never discussed her feelings at all. It was more like we were friends who would meet up periodically and be a couple again and then go our own way. It became apparent to me quite a long way into the relationship, by which I mean well over a year, that she was actually disguising more feelings than I'd realised she had.
First of all, arising from that, in what ways was it working well for you?
I don't really want to be around somebody all the time, particularly when I've got other things going on in my life as here that I'm trying to attend to. I think the point you're thinking is how it worked well for me in terms of cover story. If I'd wanted that, I would have made sure that people were aware that we were a couple, but even quite main activists were not aware we were a couple for a very long time. Very long time.
I don't want anything from you other than the truth. I want to understand why you're doing what you're doing. Am I right to understand your answer is essentially it worked for your personal convenience?
I think it worked for both of us. At least I thought it did.
When you became aware that it was becoming emotionally quite intense for Ruth, what was your reaction?
I tried to end the relationship, but that took quite a few goes.
Why did you seek to end the relationship?
Because I thought it was only fair to her, because it became apparent that she was anticipating that this relationship would endure, and I was aware that it wouldn't be able to do so.
Is it right that this was Ruth's first significant relationship?
No. Well, the key word is significant, so if she says it was, I can't disagree.
Did she raise the topic of having children with you?
No.
Are you sure about that?
I think I would have remembered that.
Well, her evidence is that she did raise it, okay, but you made clear that you didn't want children and told her that you were adopted.
It might well have been that she raised it and I didn't realise that she was talking about the possibility of having children with me.
Is it possible that she's right to recall that she did raise having children with you and you made clear that you didn't want to have children?
I wouldn't dispute anything she says. I don't think she's likely to lie about anything.
So would that be an appropriate moment to take the break, not least because we've got a very short piece of evidence which will need to be taken without the YouTube feed immediately after the break?
That would be an excellent idea, and it can be set up with that in view. Mr. Farrer, I understand we're going to go into a session which is not going to be broadcast on the live link.
That's correct, sir. For those who are watching, it's going to be a very, very short session.
Yes.
So just to let people manage their expectations. Could I have confirmation?
About 15 minutes or less?
No, 5.
Right. The live link is going to be taken down for about 5 minutes.
Could I have confirmation? Thank you. Did you attend activist events as a couple?
Yeah.
And the relationship was no secret, was it?
No.
And in the course of the relationship, did you meet members of Ruth's family?
I met her brother.
Any other members of her family?
No. I saw her mother. Her mother was at the front door of her flat once when I was there.
Did you meet her friends?
Well, we would have had the same circle of friends, broadly speaking.
Did you go on holiday together?
I wouldn't have said that we ever went on holiday because I didn't work as such and neither did she. So we certainly travelled to actions and events together. And for instance, we went to an event on action of some sort in Wales and then stopped off at Dartmoor on the way home and stayed in the back of the van for a couple of nights, that sort of thing.
And you benefited from her comfort?
From her company. Yeah.
Sex?
Yes, it was a sexual relationship.
Intimate contact?
Is that... Well, yeah, I'm not sure what you mean by that. That's different from what you've already asked me about.
And love?
No, she never mentioned that word, and there was no discussion of our relationship, which seems odd, I know, but no, there was no discussion of it, none at all. I think I would have, there's no question I would have remembered that. She never mentioned that. And I wasn't even aware of the depth of her feeling until, as I've already said, quite a long way in, well, depth of her feeling, whatever that was, until I was already quite a long way into the relationship had been going for quite a long time.
Someone doesn't have to tell you that they love you for you to benefit from their love.
Possibly not. That sounds like a philosophical question.
You benefited from her love, didn't you?
I benefited from her company and from being with her. Does that help you?
And the way she treated you?
I think the way we treated each other.
In the course of the relationship, she imparted to you a great deal of private information about her activist friends.
No, I don't think that's true.
Which bit of that proposition are you taking issue with?
Probably all of it.
Did she tell you anything private about any of her friends?
Not that I remember. I mean, I don't remember her commenting particularly. I mean, I can't remember specific conversations that we had about people that she knew.
To what extent did the relationship benefit your reporting?
I can only think of one occasion when I submitted a report based on something that she had said, but I can think of one occasion.
Were you at any time a vegan before you joined the SDS?
No, I was vegetarian.
Did you remain a vegan after your deployment?
Not initially, and then I was vegan when I was married to a vegan.
Did you smoke cannabis regularly in Ruth's presence?
Probably.
I won't repeat the questions I asked you earlier about cannabis, but what I would like to know is, was there ever any managerial check as to the extent to which you were smoking cannabis?
I'm not sure what form that would have taken.
Were you ever asked?
No.
Did you ever tell them you were smoking cannabis?
I mean, it wasn't a secret.
If it wasn't a secret, was any concern ever expressed to you either from the point of view of whether or not you should be doing it and what the impact might be on your health and your ability to report with a clear head?
No. I gave up smoking completely as well whilst I was still in the field in about 98 or 99.
Why?
Because it was impacting my health.
When you say smoking, do you mean both tobacco and cannabis?
Yes.
Is it right that things came to a head when Ruth gave you an ultimatum in or around July 1999?
No. What was the ultimatum?
About continuing the relationship and it becoming more serious?
No.
What is your recollection of the circumstances in which the relationship ended?
In the second year of our relationship, I became aware that Ruth saw our relationship as having potential to endure, and I was obviously aware that it didn't have that potential, and I didn't want to waste her time. I tried to end the relationship as gently as possible, but that didn't work very well. So that took quite a long time, because it's very difficult to end a relationship with someone who doesn't want it to end when you're not arguing and there's nothing particularly wrong with the relationship. You're trying to invent a reason to end a relationship that's perfectly healthy. That was how it seemed to me. So for quite a long time, I was trying to step back from Ruth, because I thought that was the right thing for her so that she could move on. But she kept phoning me up and making contact again. So it was sort of it took a long time before we went our separate ways, I think.
And how did it finally end?
Sort of over a period of time. I remember coming back from when we'd been out west for something and saying that I thought we should go our separate ways. And then I dropped her off to get a tube home, and it was the first time I saw her very upset, and that was at Hammersmith, I think. So that was quite of a shock to me, because I hadn't realised that she was that upset. And then I was very upset.
Did that include tears?
Yeah.
And did that end the relationship?
Pretty much. I think she's still. She got back in touch with me, and we were still friends, and would still meet at meetings and chat. That we were still friends, but I found it quite difficult, because it seemed that even when we were being friends, I felt that she was still looking at the possibility of getting back together.
Her recollection is that there was a conversation, but it took place in a flat, and it led to you leaving the premises in tears.
I remember that. Yeah, I think it's around. This is what I mean about there's not one case where we finished the relationship and went our separate ways, because there was a couple of times where we would meet up or she would ask me for something that involved us meeting up, and then you'd realise that we're sort of getting back together again. So there was probably more than one breakup. So I remember that.
She says that after that occasion, she cut you off.
Okay.
And that she didn't contact you again personally until you had commenced a sexual relationship with Rosa.
We went a long period without being in contact. And when she phoned me up again, it was months later, and I was then with Rosa, so I told her straight away. Yeah.
Did you see her once more before you withdrew?
Possibly more than once more, because we were attending the same meetings.
Did you see her for a personal conversation before you withdrew?
Couldn't you be more specific?
Well, you were there, I wasn't. What is your recollection of communication with Rosa immediately before you withdrew?
You mean Ruth?
Sorry, I do mean with Ruth, forgive me.
I remember that she had a fling with another activist that she was unhappy about, and that we met up and discussed it. She was quite entertained by aspects of it. I think that might be the conversation you're thinking of. If it isn't, I don't know what you're talking about.
Did you then go on to send her a postcard from Zambia?
Possibly. I'm sure if I did that you've still got it.
When she found out that you were an undercover police officer in January 2011, her evidence is that she was hurt and angry, and more recently she's felt repulsed. Those feelings are wholly unsurprising in the circumstances, aren't they?
I wouldn't dispute what she would say.
Because you deceived her?
Well, why specifically did she say she now feels repulsed? Well, you need to be more specific than, is she repulsed by the fact that, what is she repulsed by?
Mr. Boyling, do you accept in any way your conduct was repulsive?
No, I don't think so.
Because you deceived her, didn't you?
Yes, as I deceived everybody.
You betrayed her trust. Is that a yes?
I didn't realise that was a question, sorry.
You betrayed her trust?
Question mark.
Yes.
I guess so, within the context of the situation within which I found myself.
Your conduct had the effect of manipulating her emotions.
No, that wasn't my intention.
You knew this had no future. She thought it did. That was entirely because you were an undercover police officer who always knew that it wasn't going to last.
Well, the evidence of the subsequent relationship with Rosa would indicate that that wasn't the case.
Do you not accept even now that an undercover police officer entering into a sexual relationship with somebody doesn't manipulate their emotions?
No, it does manipulate their emotions, but I think being an undercover police officer manipulates people in a lot of different ways.
And you manipulated her sexually?
No, I don't think I manipulated her sexually.
It's an extension of the same thing, isn't it? If you are not who you say you are, and you are not what you say you are, and you are having sex with her, you are manipulating her sexually.
I don't feel that's the case.
In short, you used her, didn't you?
I don't feel that's the case.
And the relationship you formed with her, was that solely for your own benefit, or was it also for that of the MPS?
I don't think the relationship was intended to be for the benefit of either of those. I think the relationship formed because I liked her and I liked spending time with her.
That would be for your own benefit then?
Well, then that would be for my own benefit, yeah. And
Was
then
it
all
also
relationships are for people.
a big
All
part?
relationships then are for people's own benefit, aren't they?
Was it also for the MPS?
No, I don't think so. I think that's probably what would be hurtful more than anything for someone like Ruth, would be thinking that someone was only in a relationship with you for the benefit of some operational goal. If that was the case, I would say so. It really wasn't. And I'm very sorry if she thinks that that was the case.
In relation to reporting on Ruth while you were in a relationship, you described your approach to reporting on Monica in the relationship. Was your approach to reporting on Ruth any different?
No, but there was very little call for reporting on Ruth. She was very much at the soft end of the activist scene. She wasn't particularly of interest to the sort of stuff that Special Branch was interested in.
And that being despite the fact that she chaired the core organisers' meetings.
Yeah.
Can I take it that that answer speaks volumes about the approach of RTS as an organisation?
I would separate out the organisers and their intentions from the big public order events and their consequences. Our interest is in the latter, but you can't just cover that. You have to be in the whole thing.
Is that a way of saying what being inside the organising group tells you is what the plan is?
Yeah, and you're not going to be inside the organising group if you just turn up once the organising group is formed. The organising group would form before anybody in the activist world or the police was even aware that an action was being planned. So by the time the police become aware that there's even a large event being planned, the main organising group is long gone.
Did you tell your managers about your relationship with Ruth when it was ongoing?
No.
Did you tell them at any other time?
Not that I recall.
Did they nevertheless know about it?
You would have to ask them, I think.
Are you able to give any evidence one way or the other as to whether or not there was material from which they would know that it was happening?
I'm not aware.
Did you tell any of your fellow undercover officers, no names at this stage?
I would give the same answer as before. I don't remember specifically discussing with any of them that I was in a relationship with a particular person.
Did you tell HN1?
Is it my mentor?
Yes.
I think he might have gone by this point. He might have finished in the field.
Did, again, no names at this stage, yes or no, did any of your undercover officers, fellow undercover officers, know?
Who I was in a relationship with?
That you were in a relationship with Monica?
Ruth.
Sorry, with Ruth.
Specifically her, none of them would have known who she was. There was nobody else working in the same field.
And even though HN1 might have moved on, did you tell HN1?
No, I didn't have any contact with him after he'd finished.
Can we move now to Birmingham G8 action? And this is the action that was named Reclaim the Summit and took place on the 16th of May 1998. Could we have up, please, from C168 247630? This is a report after the event, the intelligence was dated the 19th of May 1998, through 3 days afterwards. I'll give you a moment to look at that.
Yeah.
Were you there?
Yes.
Was there any liaison in advance between police and Reclaim the Streets?
No.
To what extent were you involved in the organisation of this event?
It was organised by a group of activists based in Birmingham. They invited, I think, 4 of us from Reclaim the Streets London to go up to assist, because they regarded Reclaim the Streets London as the experienced and the best group for organising large-scale events. I went up with, I think, 3 other people. They walked us through their plan, which was reported in advance at the time. They walked us through the plan and explained what they were doing and asked us for our input. And then I think we came back to London, and then I think I went back up separately again for the event. So I wasn't an organiser, but I was made aware of the organisers' plan, and I was asked my opinion on it.
And presumably you expressed an opinion.
Yeah, I always give an opinion if they ask me for one. Yeah.
Do you know whether your opinion made any difference to the approach on the day?
Of the protest, I don't think so, because I think their plan was pretty good. So I think we just sort of said it was pretty good.
You've described yesterday sometimes trying to steer the plan to something that would be more acceptable to the police. Was there any of that going on here?
No, and I didn't have the knowledge of Birmingham that would have been required in order to do that.
If we have paragraph 2 expanded, please. It starts, despite elements in the crowd building barricades and throwing bottles at the police lines, the police managed to avoid a major confrontation. Did you witness the barricades and the throwing of bottles?
Yes.
Can you give us an impression of the scale and duration of this disorder?
I think it was a long time ago, but I think there was quite a lot, and it lasted through into the evening. It was quite a big news story at the time, but then the G8 was itself. I think it was... the disorder was sort of spread over a large area instead of being focused in one particular point. There was a lot of police deployed. It was quite a big... it was a major event.
The paragraph goes on to explain the problems that RTS had with the sound system on the day, and in particular the fact that Nottingham's Desert Storm was reportedly impounded soon after setting out from Nottingham. Did your intelligence play any role in relation to the failure of the sound system to get through?
It might have done, but I genuinely don't remember whether it was my intelligence or not. I remember there was a strong intelligence requirement from Birmingham around G8. In fact, it was quite an urgent requirement because they had no coverage at all. So if it wasn't our reporting, I'm not sure where else they would have got it from. But I don't recall specifically if that was mine or not.
If we could take that down now, we're going to move to the London North and South street parties, which were held on the 6th of June 1998, which I think we touched upon right at the start yesterday. There is a lot of reporting from you, a series of reports running up to that event. Can you help us with how involved you were in the organisation of that event on that day?
I was part of the small organising group for the South London party in Brixton.
Could we have up, please, from tab C172, 247661? This is a report shortly before the day. Your intelligence provided on the 4th of June 1998. And I'm particularly interested, once you've had an opportunity to refresh your memory, in the paragraph at the bottom of page 1, running over to the top of page 2.
Okay.
There's a handler's comment. This intelligence is not to be released until an agreed time during the day in question. Was that a mixture of protecting you and ensuring that the intelligence that was passed on was accurate and hadn't changed?
Yes, I think so.
And there appears to be, as in your past reports, advice given as to how best to police this event, and in particular, the top of page 2, serious consideration should be given to allowing the systems and therefore the crowd to depart unhindered. Was that your opinion as to how best to police this
It always seemed to me that the way to avoid serious disorder was to manage their planning and their expectations. That the worst public order always occurred when the police decided to confront the events.
And you make a point of explaining that there was no intention to cause any road damage.
Yeah.
Can you help us as to the basis for that?
Sorry, why did I say there was no intent?
Yes.
Because there wasn't, and I was on the organising group, so I knew the intentions of the organising group.
Yeah, and why was it why was it something that the organising group had made a decision about?
Because of the second line, that it was intended to be a community event and no desire to destroy the area.
And we take it from the quantity of sand and the inflating a bouncy castle that reinforces.
Yeah.
I'm
just accurately reporting the sort of event they were planning. As they discussed it.
And they were planning a peaceful event.
Yeah.
On the day, what happened?
I was driving the main sound system vehicle. We took the centre of Brixton with, we had staged car crashes and smoke bombs. Police allowed us to have the area that we had negotiated through this reporting that we thought they should be allowed to have. So the event went ahead right through until in the evening, where there was then some clashes between some of the people there and some of the police.
Was the sound system allowed to depart unhindered?
No, it was not.
And what was the consequence of that?
Well, I got in it to drive it away, and then the TSG tried to stop me from driving it away, and then the crowd tried to stop the TSG from stopping me from driving away by climbing onto the TSG vehicles. There was then I saw an opportunity to drive through a gap in the vehicles, so I drove through in the sound system truck up Brixton Hill. I was pursued up Brixton Hill by TSG serials in quite a low-speed chase, because it's very difficult to drive a van load of sound system quickly. I was aware also that there were a lot of activists hanging off the side, or partygoers hanging off the side of the vehicle I was driving, and also all over the TSG vehicles behind us. And after a while of driving up Brixton Hill in this way, the police vehicle behind us decided to stop to arrest the gentleman who was lying on the windscreen, holding onto the windscreen wipers. And when they did so, we saw an opportunity to turn off down a side street, and we made an escape by an alternative route.
Putting aside events around the sound system departing, the type of disorder that you were describing seemed to be in keeping with the pattern you've previously described, namely at the end of the day it dissolves into disorder in some quarters. Is that fair?
Yeah, you get a lot of people would drink and take drugs for party crowd all day at these events, and then at the end of the day they like to end it by having a bit of a fight with the police. Yeah.
Is it they like to have a fight with police, or that they fight when police come to clear them off the streets?
Well, I thought on this occasion the latter, because I'd already said that if they let the sound system go, which I was driving, I thought the crowd would have dispersed, because we had arranged an after-party squat, and crowds were usually quite happy to move on to that, where a party would continue with a smaller sound system in a squat. So in my advice here, if they'd let me leave with the sound system, it wouldn't have kicked off.
And other than the disorder you've already described, can you give us a feeling of the scale and severity of the criminality at the end of the day?
Well, not really, because once I'd left in the sound system, I wasn't there to witness it.
And from what people in the group who were infiltrating were saying?
I can't remember. It was reported as being very serious, but as we've already said, the press reporting is not necessarily accurate.
Can we take that down now, please? Can we go to the RTS Tube Party, the party line event, or Reclaim May Day, 1st of May 1999? There's a small number of reports attributed to you ahead of the day, reporting on the developments in planning. Was this again something you were part of an organising group or not?
No, I wasn't on the action, but I was aware of what was being planned.
When you say you weren't on the action, did you attend on the day?
I don't think so. I'm not certain that's correct, actually, but I don't recall being on a tube party. No, but I might be wrong about that. It's not something that I would necessarily have thought was a big deal.
But you haven't got a recollection good enough to assist us with events on the day?
No, sorry.
Can we have up, please, from tab B92, 748789?
Actually, I think I might have been, actually, thinking back, I think I might have been on that. Sorry.
Can you, insofar as you do have a recollection and understanding it may be hazy, can you give us any impression as to whether or not it involved any crime or disorder?
No, I don't think so. I don't think it did. I think the intention was to take over a tube train, and have a big action on the train. But I don't think it was specifically intended to create criminal damage or disorder.
Was there any particular reason why this event passed off peacefully?
Probably because police decided not to intervene.
Might the presence of ordinary members of the public on the underground train also have had an impact?
Possibly, but I don't remember it very well at all, I'm afraid.
Back to the document. This is a document, Annual Authorisation of Operations. It covers various undercover police officers. Can we go to page 3, please? It's dated the 13th of May, 1999. If we could have the text from officer down to the bottom expanded. I'll give you a moment to read the section about you.
Okay. Okay.
First of all, is that accurate?
I think so.
Did you see it?
Sorry, did I see what?
This document.
Oh, no. Well, I don't remember seeing it. I don't see why it would have been shown to me. It's an office document.
Were you involved in any way in the process of creating this document?
I don't know.
Or informing its contents?
You would have meetings with the office from time to time, so they would have taken content from those meetings.
Was there any discussion with you about whether or not your deployment should continue to be authorised?
No, I don't think it was ever in doubt.
in general, during the latter years of your reporting, were you ever involved in any review of whether or not your deployment should continue?
No, it was never questioned.
Could we take that down now, please? We're going to move to the J18 event, Stop the City or Carnival Against Capitalism, on the 18th of June 1999. There is very extensive reporting from you leading up to this event. Can I take it that you were a core organiser?
Yes.
Could we have up from C181 MPS 0001352? This is a document based on intelligence data the 28th of September 1998. It refers to the third planning meeting for the International Day of Action.
Okay.
Could we look on page 2, please, to the second block of text? Give you a moment to read that.
Okay.
The end of that paragraph says, at the conclusion of the meeting, Privacy and Helen Steele held a private discussion regarding London Greenpeace's experience of infiltration. How did you know about that private discussion?
I don't know, but I presume from this that I was there.
Are you able to help us with what was said?
No, but it might be easier if I know who the other person was. Is that on my list here?
We will come back. We will find out.
I mean, I'm not sure it's important, but it just might have jogged my memory as to.
We'll find out and come back to that.
Okay.
There was a plan to block the road, wasn't there?
Yeah.
What role did you play in preparing the plans to block Upper Thames Street on the day?
Quite extensive. I think I was the transport manager for the action. So the plan was to block the road through having car crashes, the same as at Brixton event. So cars would crash into each other and block the road. The idea then was that the traffic ahead would flow through, and cars coming the other way would crash to block it coming the other way. You would then blockade both ends of the road to take the space. I organised most aspects of it in terms of liaising with the other people who were driving vehicles, putting together the sound system music truck, or liaising with that. I think I was the treasurer for the event as well.
Did your role as a transport manager mean that you recruited the other drivers?
I think I would have been the one who spoke to them. I think they may well have been nominated by the organising group and then spoken to by whoever was most appropriate to speak to them. So if someone was a particular friend and said, I think this person would be good, then they might go and approach it. I certainly approached a couple of drivers.
And when you say the decision as to who should be the drivers was taken by the group, that is a group including you discussing a subject for which you've been given specific responsibility.
Yeah. So in an organising group, somebody tends to spend more time doing publicity, somebody will spend more time, if it was a blockade, working with the scaffolding crew, somebody would be responsible for putting the sound systems together. People tend to take different roles, but then everybody organises it together, and you've maybe got about 8 people on the group.
We've had evidence from the member of the public we are calling GRD.
I don't think I've got that list, I'm afraid.
We have the third row down.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I see. Okay, yep.
GRD's evidence to the inquiry was that you asked him to meet at his flat in early June 1999 with two others, and once there asked if they would be drivers.
Possibly.
Did you instruct the drivers what was expected of them on the day?
Yes, that would have been part of my role.
Did you take them on a reconnaissance?
Somebody would have, it might well have been me. I certainly remember taking some of the sound system crew on a reconnaissance to see where we were going to be.
Did your managers know of your role and activity in planning this event?
Yes.
To that level of detail?
Oh, yes, completely, yeah.
Just to be clear, does that mean all of your managers then, i.e. HN58, HN50, well, that was your DCI, your DI, and the three sergeants War, Greenie and Tiddy?
No, I didn't really work with Sergeant Tiddy at all. He was a different area. I don't recall ever being briefed by him. I don't think I had anything to do with him. But it would have been some of the other four at briefing meetings with me. And
can we take it that your DCI and DI at the time would have known of the extent of your involvement?
Yeah.
What was their reaction?
It would have been a tactical discussion around what was the best course to take, for me to take, about what the intelligence requirement was.
This involved blocking the road, involved committing a criminal offence, didn't it?
Obstruction?
Yeah.
It's a very minor criminal offence, but yes, it would involve highway obstruction.
Did you seek, or were you granted authority to participate in the obstruction of the highway?
Oh, goodness me, no, that's such a minor ranking offence that I don't think it would have even occurred to us to... You'd do very well to participate in a Reclaim the Streets action and not even be at risk of committing obstruction of the highway. It would be everything you were involved in.
Just taken for granted that you'd do that.
Yeah.
Can we have a look now, please, at 36294? This is your witness statement. And once we've got it up at page 155... And if we look at 381.4, the paragraph at the top, I'll give you a moment to refresh your memory.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
The impression one gets from reading this is we've provided you with the reporting we've recovered.
Yeah.
You've looked at it. And your recollection is that on top of the considerable detailed reporting that we have recovered, there was even more intelligence that you were providing about this event.
There's so many documents that I'm not sure which ones you've got, but sometimes it seems to me that there's other ones missing, but they may have been passed on verbally. So with this, for instance, I remember taking care to get this absolutely spot on, because it was such a big event. And I remember when I gave it to HN52, he immediately phoned part of it, but only part of it, through to the desk officer, I think it was. And I'd assumed that all of the rest of it would have gone in also, but I haven't seen any evidence that it ever did. So it may be that they just used it as a basis for verbal briefing, or it may be that it did go in and I just haven't seen it in the pile, or it may be that it went in and it's now gone missing.
In RTS's own minutes and the minutes of other groups, any other groups involved, did they give away much detail of what was being planned, or did you get most of that through discussion as part of the core group?
I'm not sure what you mean by minutes.
Well, we've seen in some of the reports that minutes of meetings are attached. What I really want to know is, can you recall whether they were essentially quite sanitised documents?
There was nothing of great interest in. They were, ironically, very security conscious. They wouldn't write down anything specific. They didn't speak on the phone. That was why the only way of getting this sort of detail, which is what you needed for the basis of the policing plan on such a large-scale event as this, would be this form of reporting, which is why I was careful. I mean, usually you'd verbally brief your handler, but with something like this, in order to make sure it was absolutely spot on, I remember writing it down and giving it to him in a written form for him to type up. But whether it got typed up in that form or just passed on verbally, or what happened to it, I don't know.
But one way or another, you were all over this reporting.
It was all submitted to that officer.
Considerable detail.
Completely.
We've touched on your role as a transport manager, your role as treasurer. Were you involved in financing or approving the financing of hiring equipment for this event?
Yes.
Things like buying the cars?
Yes.
Hiring the sound system?
Yeah.
What else?
Other equipment that was needed for it. So, I wouldn't necessarily have been there when the truck was hired, for instance, but we would cover the cost. I think I kept a list of the expenditure, and I think it was about £13,000 for this one event. It was a lot of money. Also, some of it went on. For instance, we had another truckload of equipment that was intended to use for actions at the Futures Exchange. By bricking it up, we had equipment to open up the water mains to create flooding and a pool, and then to use that water for bricking up the Futures Exchange. There was other aspects, things like a pirate radio station that was set up for the activists for the day. There was a squat for afterwards. There was all sorts of stuff.
And did that involve also the preparation of masks and funding of masks for distribution?
Yeah, there was
on the
masks distributed amongst the crowd. There was also smaller sound systems used to move the crowd, because the crowd met at Liverpool Street, so we needed to move them down to the venue. Just lots and lots. Big events like this, there's a huge amount of stuff.
And you mentioned materials to brick up a building, so that things like breeze blocks, power tools, cement, ladders. Yeah,
there was an angle grinder. I think we needed to take off one of the gates to gain access. Lots of stuff.
And in practice, as the treasurer, what does it actually mean in relation to this expenditure? Are you deciding whether or not it happens?
No, and I think that was part of the reason I ended up being the treasurer, because I only sort of proceeded by consensus on it. So they had a principal funder who was a very rich activist within the group. Most of the money was passed to me in cash form from him. Sometimes we got donations, and we actually had a bank account because people would send cheques payable to reclaim the streets. Chumbawamba, the group sent us money, people like that, so we needed to be able to access that. But for the expenditure, I would put all of it through the organising group. I didn't make decisions on any of it myself. I put all of it through the organising group.
When you talk about the decision-making, are you essentially explaining consensual decision-making that was normal in the sort of groups that you were infiltrating?
Yes. In anarchist groups try to proceed on all things by a consensus-driven model.
And as the treasurer, you would express views when that consensus was being arrived at?
Absolutely.
Did you try and influence the direction of the planning in any way to make it more palatable to the police?
I don't think that was possible on this event. It was too big and too complicated. I certainly would have always been looking for... I would always be looking for a way in which I thought the activists would be given the opportunity to at least snatch a draw, if that makes sense. And I remember that phrase being used.
Can you explain further what you mean by that?
It's not our intention. It's not the intention of Special Branch to crush Reclaim the Streets or oppose them. It is our intention to gain full sight of what they're doing in order to provide accurate intelligence in this detail, to form the basis for the policing plan, and I guess ultimately the greater glory of Special Branch management up at the yard. It's not our intention to arrest organisers, to prosecute organisers. It's simply our intention to gain full coverage over what they're doing. Once we've gained full coverage of what they're doing, and we can see it all, and we can provide a stream of reporting on that, that's game over for us. We'll just sit in that position indefinitely. We don't want to destroy them. In fact, quite the opposite. Having put so much work into getting that sort of access, the irony is that we would want them to flourish.
Can that really be right?
Yeah, it's very right, I'm afraid.
If their events are leading frequently to public disorder,
I'm afraid it is, and it was a cliche I was told about SDS when I was still in the back office, that people notice that once SDS become heavily involved in groups, they tend to flourish.
Why was that?
Because of this ability of Special Branch to manage the policing of their events better. I mean, if you compare it to the approach that we saw yesterday from CO11 of harassing activists in order to sort of suppress them as a group, this way seemed to work much better. But it did mean that groups up to a certain point, obviously, would be allowed to have free rein, provided that we were able to provide that intelligence briefing.
Was it because undercover officers were becoming involved in the running of groups, as you were?
Yeah, sure.
Can we come to events on the day? Did you drive one of the vehicles on the day?
Yes.
And you deliberately crashed it?
Yes.
And left it blocking the highway?
Yeah.
Did you leave it with the window open?
Yes.
Was that deliberate?
I'm afraid not, no.
Can you help us in general terms with what happens next?
Of the whole event?
Yeah, in broad terms, and what I'm interested in is essentially crime and disorder.
Okay. So the action went off largely as planned. Then there was a number of people on the action forced their way into the futures exchange, and there was fighting between the activists and the security. That continued up the escalators, and then the activists tried to get into the trading hall. I wasn't present then, so I can't really say what happened beyond that point. The main event, this part of it sort of went okay. They were confined within this area by police. At one point, I can't remember what provoked it, but it possibly the police trying to get to the futures exchange to stop the people who were trying to storm onto the trading floor, that it did become quite violent.
Did you personally witness any of that?
Yeah.
And can you describe the sort of acts of violence that you witnessed?
Missiles. I mean, there was punches and violence within the building on the escalators. I don't know what it was like on the floor. I don't think these were. None of the organisers were involved in this. And then I remember that riot police deployed from the city.
When
I think it got much worse as it went on, because I remember there was buildings set alight and all sorts later on.
Let's take it a step at a time then.
Okay.
Staying with the Life building, you've mentioned security, so this is activists fighting with security guards?
Yeah.
Anybody else?
I don't remember anybody else. I'm not. I mean, these are big events. You don't have a panoramic view of it.
I do.
You're stuck in a crowd. And
I understand. I'm just interested in what you can tell us from your personal experience. Can you, without naming names, tell us whether the people who were involved in violence, forcing their way into and through the Life building, were from any particular group? Were you able to tell?
No. There was all sorts of groups on this.
Were people wearing masks?
Yes.
Were some of those the masks that had been prepared by RTS?
Yes.
Did those masks have instructions on
yes.
them? And what was the gist of the instructions or the purpose?
The idea of it was that it would fox the police because the whole demo would be wearing masks. The instructions were about how we wanted the crowd to move from Liverpool Street to the venue, which we wanted them to do by several different routes simultaneously so that the police wouldn't be able to kettle the crowd. So they moved from about 4 different routes with leaders that we'd appointed with small sound systems and big costumes and such like to get the crowd through to where we wanted them to be. The instructions about following the crowd were written on the inside of the masks.
Could we move from the Life building and could you tell us what other violence and disorder you personally witnessed on the day?
Well, it deteriorated into a lot of missile throwing. I do remember seeing a mounted officer being pulled off of her horse by the crowd. There was a lot of missile throwing. Riot police started coming in, and those of us that were stood together that had been the organisers decided this might be a good time to leave, because if you're known to be an organiser, the last thing you want is to be seen to be at the front when it's all kicking off. So we decided to leave, but I remember that the police had already kettled the crowd in to some extent, and it was difficult to get out. I think eventually we did manage to get out, and we went over to the other side of the bridge where you could see there was a pall of smoke over the city, and some of the buildings seemed to be burning.
So did you personally witness the riot police deploying?
Yeah, I saw some riot police from the city being deployed. That wasn't the Met. The Met couldn't come in until they were invited in by the city police.
Did you see the Met riot police deploy?
They were deployed, but I can't remember at what point that was. But it was slightly odd because the Met police appeared to have been fully briefed, and they were all sat right on the other side of the river, ready to come into that specific area, and then they weren't called in. And even when we left the scene, we walked past dozens of police carriers sat there with police officers in, waiting for permission to go and sort it out, I think. But so the City of London police were trying to deal with it on their own because they didn't want to lose primacy for events in the city, I think. And it was only when it was completely out of control that they conceded that they would have to call in help.
Going back to the Life building and the construction materials, what was actually done with those on the day?
They were used to build a wall outside the entrance to the Futures Exchange, using breeze blocks and concrete and water from the water mains that we'd opened.
Was this a wall blocking the entrance, or was it a wall blocking access to the entrance, if you see the difference?
I couldn't be specific as to how close to the entrance it was. I remember it was fairly ineffective because breeze blocks had been placed on the side rather than upright, so they ran out of breeze blocks before it got too high.
Was its purpose symbolic, or did it have some other purpose?
I think both. A symbolic action can also be a practical one.
And what was it?
Sometimes something which is intended by the activists as a joke, from their point of view, can seem quite aggressive from somebody else's point of view.
What was its practical consequence?
Well, I've already said I can't remember whether it blocked the door to the extent that people couldn't get in. I didn't build the wall. I just remember seeing it there. So.
Just so we're clear, was it being used as a barricade from which to resist the police?
No. The cars were used as the barricade from which to resist.
Did you see anyone smash CCTVs?
Did I see? I remember they were smashed. Did I see them smashing it, or did I just become aware of it? I don't remember seeing them smash it.
But they were smashed.
They were smashed, and I might even have seen it. I don't remember seeing that specifically.
Did blocking the highway facilitate the disorder?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And was that the intention?
I think the attitude of the organising group that I was on was, it was well put by somebody. They said something along the lines of, we don't create the disorder, we just create circumstances in which the crowd can express itself. I think that's probably a good way of putting it. We were not at all unhappy, and the organisers would not be at all unhappy to see it kick off in this way, even if that wasn't the intention of the event. The only real sin is if nothing happens. So long as there's a big event and everybody's talking about it, you're sort of 90% of the way to what's being viewed as a successful action.
You've described what amounts to some dysfunction and lack of coordination in the police response to this event, notwithstanding your considerable detailed intelligence. Were you told anything about why there wasn't a greater police presence around the Life building, and why police reinforcements did not arrive?
Yeah, I was
more
told that the Met had offered a detailed briefing to City of London Police, and it had been declined. The City of London Police said they had their own intelligence sources and they didn't need the Met's input. I don't know if that's correct. That's what I was told had happened. So the Met basically took their ball and went home with it and left them to get on with it. But when we saw their intelligence briefing, it was nonsense. They'd made contact with some small group of students and seemed to think that they were organising the event. But they never took the opportunity to have the Met's briefing, and then they were very, very slow to allow the Met into their area, which was their prerogative, and consequently responsibility for policing events in the city was taken away from them and given to the Met shortly afterwards, which I think the Met senior management would probably have regarded as a win.
Without being careful about anonymity, who told you that?
I can't remember. I think we had a debriefing with the people you've discussed. So the DCI, the DI, the DS. We had a debriefing, and I think it would have just been discussed at that.
Were you involved after the event in trying to identify offenders or suspected offenders?
Yeah, sometimes they would send out the Police Gazette photos or whatever and ask me if I knew anybody on them.
Did that happen after this event?
I don't remember, but it might have done.
Could we have up from C227 MPS 302244, please? This is dated the 1st of July 1999, RTS meeting 29th of June 99. If we expand the text, give you a chance to read that, but it records some concern about the possibility of further arrests as police view video footage from the day.
Yeah.
Can you recall whether you were shown any video footage to try and identify offenders from the day?
I don't think I was shown video footage. I might have been shown stills from it. I think I probably would have been. I'd be surprised if I wasn't.
Without giving any names, did you identify any suspects when doing that?
I'm not sure if it was for this event or not, but there was a couple of occasions around this time when people involved in the disorder were known to me. Yeah.
Could we have up C263 MPS 302712? And if we
Oh,
could,
there you go. Yeah, okay.
can you see that, or would you like it expanded?
No, I can see it fine. Okay.
This reads as if you have seen a photograph and are providing some very specific identifying details about a suspect.
Yes.
Is that the correct reading of that document?
Yes.
Without naming any names, can you tell us whether or not you know anybody was actually convicted on the basis of your identifications?
No, I wouldn't have known. This would have been the end of my involvement with it.
There was a prosecution for organising an illegal procession. Were you involved in any way in those proceedings?
No.
Do you know whether your involvement as an organiser was disclosed to the prosecution or to the court?
I don't think I was aware of those proceedings, unless they were the proceedings against the person who funded it. Is that a different thing?
I need your evidence.
Okay, sorry.
Not mine.
I don't know. I remember there was a court case relating to the person that had funded the event, although it was not, the court case was not in relation to his funding of it. If that's what you're talking about, then that's the only case I can think of that came out of it. It would help if you tell me that I'm talking about the right case before we go on.
If you take down that document, please, could we have up from 38295, page 229, this is the Reclaim the Streets witness statement in this inquiry's proceedings. At page 229.
The document only goes to 209.
It's paragraph 15.6.20. If that's going to be difficult, it might be easier to adjourn for lunch.
I think you've given the wrong number for the document.
May we pick this up after
Yes,
lunch?
certainly. We'll resume at 2.
Ah, that's it.